Well, I come down to deepest, darkest Essex, and I'll be deadly honest, when I got about 10 miles away from home I did suffer a few headaches and a nosebleed, but I made it, and I'm here now at a lake I've never fished, I know nothing about. I don't know the depths, I don't know how much weed there is. All I know is that it's a carp syndicate, and quite often there's some fairly good pike which are getting caught on boilies when the carp anglers are reeling in, so they're definitely in here and they're definitely up for the chase. The first thing to do when I come to any new lake is to try and find some features. I need to find weed beds, I need to find out the depths really, and to do that I'm going to lure fish. I want to catch some fish, hopefully on the lures, but I also want to use the sinking lure so that I can feel that lure down. One, if I pull it and it's in the weed bed, I know there's weed there and I can cast around it and see how big that is, and that's going to be a feature. And two, if I'm counting it down and it goes to 10, it's 10 in that area. If I go to another area and it goes to 15, I know that area is a lot deeper, so I can work out the depths as well. If I get any follows off any fish, and especially if they're big fish, which can happen quite a lot on lures, then I'll know that that's where I'll be setting up my dead baits ready for tomorrow's campaign to hopefully try and get a better fish. But who knows, I could get a big fish on a lure. The weather is lovely right now, but we're due for hurricanes and rain and everything else Essex can throw at us, so fingers crossed we survive, and fingers crossed we get a decent pike. So let's off to go lure fishing now and see what we can do. I'm using a 10cm Salmo slider at the moment in perch pattern, and they cast like bullets, they're sinking, so I can therefore work out the depths. And first cast out, and I was crawling it back in across the bottom, I snagged a branch, only small, so I reeled it in really quickly because I didn't want that on there. And as I did, there was one about 7 or 8 pound chasing after it. It could never have bitten it because there was a bit of a branch on there, but it shows they wanted the lure before it went into that little snag, and it shows that they're willing to follow. So hopefully we should be able to pick up a fish. Maybe even that one might go again because it turned away right at the bank. So we'll see. So definitely not the same fish I just had a follow from, because I belted this one down the tree line. A tree line can always be a good place to cast because it creates natural shadows, like a natural overhang. You don't have to get right tight underneath, you don't have to risk losing lures. And quite often what they'll do is the pike will hide under that trees, under the trees anyway, and then they'll shoot out into the light and use that tree cover to actually ambush their prey. So it's only a little one we've got here, but it's the first fish on the lure, and there could well be some others out there. So some people think pike are greedy. I'd probably have to agree. I mean, look at the size of that lure for that little fella there. But they're aggressive, they're predators, they're opportunists, and if they see a meal, and I've made that lure look like a wounded fish by just little sweeping movements of the rod tip, then they're going to attack it and hopefully be able to get it in their mouth. So lovely little fish. Gently get the hooks out so as not to damage any of the teeth. There we go. Lovely little pike. First one of the day. See if we can catch a few more. Let this little one go back. Whoa! Didn't want to hang about. Gin clear water here, so should be some good lure fishing, I think. Right, let's see if we can get another one. So Matt came along, had a cast, just to show me how effective the lures can be on a straight retrieve, and he actually did say I'm going to catch one first cast doing it. I caught one, and then 10 seconds later, while I'm bringing mine in, he does catch one on that same cast. So my retrieve was quite erratic, his retrieve was straight, and the salmo slider caught a fish in one cast, 2 fish. You don't get too much better than that. Well done, cameraman. Yeah!
Following it?
Yeah, just stay still, mate. There's a good fish. There's 2 of them down there.
What did it take?
It's there, mate. F***ing there. I just nicked it.
Did it take it?
Yeah.
Still there?
There's a good double. Oh, it's bolted. Touched it. It came out from underneath this and followed in by another one behind it. Both doubles.
Really?
Yeah, both doubles. Came out from underneath there like a bloody crocodile. I just missed a really big fish down here. Came out from underneath the tree roots when a little jack was following it in. And I cast that again. And I caught the little jack, not the bigger one, but sometimes when you're playing pike, it just spurs on other pikes, so there's still every chance that I might be able to get that other pike. So a bit of a close swim, so we'll have to just see what we can do to get this one in. Whoa, 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 whoa. Well, we're not going to get a look at that one because it decided to unhook itself and swim off, but it had a very deep belly on it. It's actually just led down there, it's just moved off now. It was a double because of the belly on it, so definitely not the big one I just saw there. I'm going to have another few more casts, see if I can get another one. I think it's weed, eh? Yeah, it's a snag or something out. Is that one of Chili's? It's a PB.
Can we get a release?
It's not moving. The fishing's been fantastic, to be honest. I've had plenty of fish, well over a dozen, probably nearly 15 to be honest. Had them all on this lure here, which is Salmo slider in hot perch pattern. You can see the belly there, which is really gives a good flash when you twitch the rod back. It's slightly rough when I touch it, but other than that, you wouldn't even know that it's had all those fish. So pretty much indestructible, to be honest, so that's great. I'm going to change. Just for the pure reason that I want to try a soft bait. I want to try something a bit different. I know I'm catching loads on these. Let's just see what a different lure does. So I'm probably going to go for a replicant, I think. They're tried and tested. I've caught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pike on replicants of all different sizes. So I'm going to give one of those a go. The rod I'm using is quite capable of of casting replicants or sliders. So it's rated between, it's the new Terminator Pro, it's rated between 40 and 160 gram. I've got the 4000 prism reel on there with 50-pound sinking horizon braid, and then that goes straight through to one of the new traces, which again has had all those fish. It's a little bit bent, but I can guarantee you it's just as strong as when it was out of the packet. There's no roughness to that at all. And that's the titanium leaders there. I've got these in 18 kilogram, they're 40 centimeters long. So now it's just a case of choosing what replicant to use. The slider was good, very, very good in the hot perch. So it makes sense to maybe go for a natural perch of the replicant. So let's give this one a go. Looks good to me. Let's see if the pike think the same. Oh, yeah. There you do it. Turns out they like replicants as well. Result. So just had this one on the replicant, really tight down to the margins again, just bringing it along the tree line behind me. I knew there'd be a pike led up in there because there always is. It's just whether they're switched on and whether they're feeding, and today with the conditions we've got, they're totally switched on. You can see all the leeches over his gill plate there and on his fins, and that's a fish which has just been led in that silt. But when they're on doesn't necessarily mean they're moving, but it means they will attack when they see a lure or a bait go past them. So it's looking really promising for the rest of the trip. So I'll get a few of the leeches off and then put this one back. Whoa! That one doesn't want me to get the leeches off, he just wants to get going. There it goes. He wasn't hardly hooked, it was wedging his mouth open. Yeah. Yeah.
Big fish. monstrous here.
Yeah.
I went down.
It's a monster.
No. I want to look, but I don't move.
Just don't move, don't move. It's just hanging back in the dark. It came right up to the lure, nosed it, and then just moved back and just sunk back into the dark water.
Monster as in?
I probably bet my van that it was over 20 pound. It was a big fish, mate, really big fish. It was inquisitive, it didn't look alert, it was following it, like maybe it was following it out of its territory or something like that. Literally just came up and then just slowly backed into the dark water. It was big fish, mate, really big fish. And we've had one jack up here and plenty of action around the rest of the lake. There's a good chance. There's a good chance this is maybe where she's hanging about at the moment. That's really big. It was deep, like deep and wide. It was a big, big fish, biggest I've seen today. That fish over there was a nice fish. It was a big fish, but that swim's so tight. Oh, I had my heart set on going over there and fishing there and putting the rods out at first light, but mate, that was big. That was big. I'm sure that'll pick up a dead bait. I'm sure it will. I'm sure. It wasn't quite right on the lure. It just didn't. It was more moving it out of its territory and inspecting it. It wasn't after it to hit it like all the other ones. You know, they come in aggressive. This was just following it. Oh.
It's like decided the swim choice for tonight.
Yeah, this one is my swim. I'm sure you can get that out on bait. It didn't come in and kick off and go off God knows where like they do, and you carry on casting thinking it would come back. It just came, looked, and just went back down again. And there's a bit of a drop off out there. There's deeper water down this part of the lake, and you know, that time of year, all the jacks around those shallows and everything like that, and they're all bunched up. You know, we've had electric sport today just solely because the conditions are amazing. It is mild, there's big winds and a hurricane coming in, and this is the deeper water, hold back from where they were going to the spawning, so it makes perfect sense. And that was a cracking pike. It really was. I actually don't want to keep putting the lure over the top of it, because I don't think it's going to do anything to it at all. I really don't. I think it's worth resting this swim and setting up camp. Not even putting bait out on it tonight. Just fishing it first light tomorrow morning. And I really don't think it would go far. There couldn't even be more than one. It's that type of area. Or I wanted to go back over to that other place.
That's a one rod with a float, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. That's all you'd get in now, I think. See what this does for tomorrow morning, and then if it's fruitless, then we get over there and I'll have a go with the float. Because that fish was just led under that raft, and I'd love to get that fish from underneath there. It was a lovely looking fish. And who knows, I might even get that one in the morning anyway. I'm going to set up camp and put the kettle on. So this is a celebratory brew. Yesterday we had the big follow off the big fish, and we just had to get back into these swims here, and I wanted this swim because obviously this is where I saw the follow. I knew there was deep water out there from just feeling the lures down, and compared to the rest of the lake it went down probably 3 or 4 foot deeper, so I had a hunch that she was probably going to still be hanging around there. And at first light this morning, well, I cast out at 5 o'clock, and then at first light, which is around about 6 o'clock, when I popped that lamprey, I got her, and she's a chunk. She's ready for photos. Well, we got a fish on. It's definitely not as big as the other one. It's only a small one, but they all count. Spirited little jack on a smelt, which has just come off. Another one in the bag. Not as big as the big girl who I'm just about to take photos of though. Well, we were rudely interrupted then by this little chap, and it would probably be just a little mouthful for the big girl, which I've got sat waiting in the sack over there. We're going to finish our brew, and then we're going to take some quick photos, and we'll show you what we got. So here we have the big one, which we saw yesterday. We've already just weighed her, 24 pounds and 9 ounces. A really special fish for me, because it's not only been caught on film, but it's my, it's my 30th 20-pound pike from 7 different venues, and fantastic to catch it on film as well. So we're going to get back straight away now, so that hopefully somebody will have the pleasure of catching her again. So here we are. It doesn't sound like it, but it's just because there's a break in the weather, and the weather has been absolutely awful. It's Hurricane Doris, according to the weatherman, and she's not been happy. We've had branches coming down. We've had God knows what. We had wind. We've had rain. We've got a little lull in the weather now, though. So fingers crossed, now's the time if we get another take. But obviously, we were lucky enough to have that big fish this morning, so absolutely over the moon with that. Tackle-wise, we're dead baiting. We've got the rods out there, 3 running ledgers, so we've got the run ring there, running up and down a piece of tubing just to protect the actual main braided line, which is 50-pound Fox Horizon line on there. And then I've got the FX9 reels on there, and they're on the pike rods, which are 3 1/4 pound test curve. That's the Predator ones, and they've got, you know, I use those rods quite often for distance fishing as well, because they've got some good backbone on them. And the 2 3/4 pound test curves, I'm using them more for the rivers and the drains and float fishing and ledger work as well, but for smaller venues. We did have a little occurrence actually earlier on, and in pike fishing sometimes you see things which are a little bit different. All fishing you can see unusual things, but this was something which I've never seen on film before. I know Matt's seen it once before, and I happened to be stood next to Matt when he got the take, and I got my phone out. I'm a bit of an amateur doing the old filming, but I got my phone out, and I made a little video of Matt striking into a fish, playing a fish, and then the rest you'll have to watch and see. But it's very interesting and very different, and it's a very unusual capture. So I think that's something which is definitely worth a watch. So fingers crossed my filming comes out okay. In the meantime, while this weather stays like this and eases off, I think it's probably time for a brew, and hopefully we might get another fish or two. Who knows?
Slightly better fish, not monster.
Can you guess what it is yet?
I reckon it's a double. Half decent one.
Yeah, well done it is, very. It's a good fish, mate.
Look, it's got an eel.
Oh, an eel in its mouth.
Oh, it's just chucked it out. Net that.
No wonder they take the lamprey. It's a good fish. Oh, what a mate.
Oh, mate.
Hey.
Well, what a result, mate.
Hey.
Couldn't let Ben have all the fun. Cameraman had to have a quick go. And what did this one go?
The boy did good. 22.4.
Happy days, mate.
£22.4. And what happened when you were getting it in the net? When I was getting it in the net?
Well, take a look at this.
Sometimes when I use lamprey, I think, oh, I don't know, it was a bit of a big bait sometimes. But then things like this happen, and
Absolutely crazy.
And as you're going to go and net it, I mean, if you can just see that there out of its throat and where that would have been inside of it, then
absolutely mad, isn't it?
Yeah, I think later on there might be a little bait left out of that one.
I think so.
Yeah,
but it's
fantastic.
mad. That's the second time I've seen that happen now. I mean, pike definitely predate on eels a lot, especially these sort of venues. The silverfish populations have been really reduced by the cormorants, and species like eels are a perfect prey for them. But
totally,
right,
100%.
Let's get this one back, mate.
Beautiful, beautiful fish, lovely.
Before the rain starts again.
Again, okay.
We've had a bit of everything, haven't we?
We have, yeah. All seasons in one day today.
Mwah. Thank you very much. Mate, properly ready. She doesn't want to hang about. Just don't want to let them go, do you?
No. She's going to go looking for that eel section.
Yeah, she's like, where's my dinner? I've been digesting.
She's gone. Well done. Well, it's been quite uneventful since the big fish. So that big fish from earlier on underneath the tree keeps playing on my mind, so I'm thinking we probably go back down there, one rod, one small rod, probably a short 10-foot 3-pound test curve boat rod, the Predator rods. They're ideal for short confined spaces. Set one of those up, go down underneath that tree and just sit it out for an hour or two. The weather's getting worse and worse and worse. There's branches coming down, taking the lines out and things. So I think, you know, the storm's going to get a lot worse later on this afternoon. So we'll do a quick hour and a half under the tree, see if we can tempt her to come back out from underneath that sunken raft and give that a go. I'm just having a quick 20 minutes with the lure, because sometimes just casting past your baits and bringing lures back over the top of your baits without hitting the lines just really carefully can bring a pike into the area, picks up the scent, and you can get takes of your dead bait rod. So it's a last ditch attempt with this, and then it's a quick cupper and then straight down the other end of the lake and see if we can tempt one out on the on an eel section. Right, we might just pass on the cupper, reel the rods in, and get to a slightly safer place to fish, because that was a little bit too close for comforts.
I think we should run now.
I think it's time to go! Quick! Back to the van! Yeah, we need to go because it keeps gusting and gusting, and gusts are getting more and more, and it's meant to be Hurricane Doris, and I don't think she's very happy, so I think we should leave her to it.
So we'll go sit under another tree somewhere.
Yeah, but they're small bushes. This is a very big tree and I don't like the look of it. It's time to go. Don't show my missus this. God, she'll worry. She'll worry. Right, so we've moved to somewhere a little bit safer. It was a little bit hazardous packing up, to say the least, but we made it. We survived. We've come down here. There's no overhead trees here, so we should be good to go. I've just tackled up this rod. So like I said earlier, it's the 10-foot boat rod, 3-pound test curve, because we're about to creep down in a minute and go into a swim which is very overgrown. So we've got the Fox PowerPoint trebles here in size 4s to the 40-pound 49 strand wire, Predator wire. That's going up to the to a quick link, and then onto the egg sinker. You can change the weights on these. That's 25 gram to a 25 gram stubby slider float there as well. Here, soft rubber bead. You might think that's a bit big. Well, it's meant to be big, so that's when you're fishing over depth and you've got a bead, because sometimes that can actually come in through the top eye and run down and cause you all sorts of problems, especially if you've got a fish on. So that's actually there, nice and soft, and it doesn't damage the end eye or anything at all, and it also won't get reeled into the end eye, so that's there for a reason. And then we've got the a braid stop here, a little bit longer than a normal braid stop, than a float stop, so it actually clings onto the braid a little bit better. And then we have this. It's not something you'd get in your average tackle shop for when you ask for a dead bait, but however, as you probably saw in my amateur footage this morning on film, that this is what the big pike coughed up. So we're going to probably trim it down to here, so we got a nice size bait, and we're going to creep down where I saw the big fish yesterday. I'm going to creep in just the one rod, all very stealthily, and I'm just going to lower it down where I first saw it. And then I'm just going to flick it into a little bit of deeper water in case it doesn't come out there, so hopefully it'll feed on this in a little bit of dark water. Just going to give it an hour and a half, because I don't know if you can hear, but Doris is getting more and more angry the longer we stay here. So we're going to do that, give it a go, fingers crossed. Who knows, we might be able to finish on a fish on this bait here. Let's see. Well, I think we're coming towards the end of this little swim session here. We've had a good stint in this swim. We've given it a good hour and a half. I started off static, creeping in, putting it where I knew that big fish was yesterday, and nothing. So I've actually then just been twitching it around the swim, leaving it static again in various places, but not even so much as a follow. Yesterday, you know, there was a couple of good fish in this swim. There was even a big carp swimming around in here. You know, there's definitely fish here, but it's just dead today. But obviously we've had a fantastic session. I've had a 20. Matt's had a 20 as well, and then we've also obviously started off with all those fish on lures as well. So we really have had a fantastic time. But It was big or bust with this bait. It was a big bait. It came out of the other big fish's mouth. It was do or die. Try and put it where we knew there was a big fish originally, and fingers crossed it would have gone away, but it hasn't. The storm's getting a lot worse. It's probably not too safe to stay out much longer, so I think we'll probably call it a day now, and a good couple of days it has been, so we'll get going while the going's good.